Welcome everyone to the first installment of the Wrestling Authority podcast, right here hosted by me, Jim Alexander, and joining me, my co-host for today, Ricky Orozco. Ricky, what's up?
What's up, Jim? Thanks for having me on the show. What's up, everyone? Glad you're tuning in.
This is a special edition. I mean, we're the last Raw before Wrestlemania, and this Sunday's Wrestlemania, so we're going to be previewing all of that in one show. So it's a huge show right here, and who better than do it than us, right?
Yeah.
That's right. So, Ricky, what'd you think of Raw overall tonight? Was it a good one in your opinion, or was it kind of disappointing? It's the last Raw before Mania. It's usually the big Raw where you build up the storylines and make sure the top ones kind of get the biggest, pop basically in a night. What'd you think of the Raw tonight?
Right. Yeah, usually when it's the last Raw before the big pay-per-view, I always wait for the last hour or so. I think that's where they really go all out more.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, you know what? I was a little disappointed how Roman Reigns reacted with the whole Brock Lesnar-Roman Reigns situation. Paul Heyman did his thing. He just did a great job on the mic.
That was a great promo tonight.
Always love him. And it's just, I understand what they did with Brock holding the title and then Roman taking it.
Mm-hmm.
I get what that represents, that Roman's coming to take the title from Lesnar. And then, I would have loved to see, them, maybe fight like the old days, end it off like that.
A brawl, and they're trying to get separated by people, and then they go off and with the stare down.
Exactly. Because, they keep saying, it's going to be a fight. It's not going to be a wrestling match. It's going to be a fight. Well, then, let's get a little preview before WrestleMania, I'm a huge fan of the ladder matches.
Yeah.
And seeing all the guys go after the Intercontinental title and then all of them just laid out all over the ring. Personally, I thought that was awesome because you know what? I think that match should steal the show at WrestleMania.
It should. It's got the right people in it.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. It's got, Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler, Ambrose, Barrett, Stardust. So it should. To me, it's going to be between that or the Rollins and Orton match.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get to that in a second. What'd you think of Raw the way it started off today with Sting coming out, finally opening up Raw and giving a promo, and then they had Stephanie McMahon come out? I thought that was actually a good little intro to have Stephanie come out instead of Triple H, kind of build it up, and because Stephanie can talk on a mic, that's for sure. I like the intro. I like the way they started off Raw today.
Yeah, I agree. I remember when I was at work, I saw I think it was a tweet that said, breaking news, Sting's going to start off Raw, which I thought that was a great way to begin with. And like you said, mixing it up with Stephanie instead of Triple H, I have no problem. I have no problem with Stephanie on the mic. I mean, she's Vince's daughter. She knows what she's doing,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think she's really good on the mic. She's proven that over the years, and I thought it was a good way to get over more heat and in a sense, get Triple H all riled up and have him come to the ring and then, of course, play the typical, heel role, the chicken crap, scared heel running away when Sting pulls out the bat.
Right. And he does a great job, in my opinion, playing the heel, Triple H.
Oh, yeah. He's one of the best at it. No question about it. And I think he does a great job of playing a heel, the scary type of heel, where you're scared. He's tough, but yet he has the coward moments in him,
exactly.
And that's what really gets you heat with the crowd.
Exactly.
I did like that opening segment. I thought it was good. Then you had that tag team match, the 6-man, it was R-Truth and actually an Ambrose versus the other ladder match contenders. There's so many people in that ladder match. So
I
know. But I thought I was actually surprised that R-Truth is getting over so much. And he got it. I'm just surprised. Him and Ambrose picked up the win, and it was over Stardust and Luke Harper. Those are the two other guys that are going to be in the ladder match.
Yeah, I'm surprised too myself. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I'm really surprised too because the last time they really, really pushed Truth, in my opinion, was back when when he introduced the little Jimmy thing.
Right.
And he was in the main event against Cena at Capital Punishment a few years ago. And since then, to me, he sort of just floated around.
Mm-hmm.
And now I thought it was so random when they threw him into the ladder match. I mean, I'm a fan of R-Truth. I was like, oh, but I did not expect that.
Yeah, no, I didn't expect him to be in this WrestleMania match, in a huge ladder match with, besides really probably Luke Harper in a way, all these guys are legitimate. Like, I mean, Daniel Bryan's a main event talent. Ziggler's right there. Wade Barrett has been always close, and same thing with Ambrose. And Cody has always been up there, but those seem like Luke Harper. He's a big guy. You always need a big guy in a ladder match. But for me, just Truth doesn't fit. He's like the odd guy out. Like, this is a guy that was like jobbing for like the past 2 years, literally. And doing on main event. He had like the opening matches on that, and now he's going to be in a Mania match, and he's actually like getting over guys on leading up to it. That's surprising.
Right? Yeah, it's funny because when they first started teasing the Intercontinental match, the title match, I remember they were saying maybe it was a triple threat match, and I was like, oh, maybe they'll just put Truth in the match, just so that way if Barrett loses the title, he won't get pinned.
Right.
But now you add a total of 7 guys in the ladder. They're all former Intercontinental champions. But like you said, Truth, cool that he's in it, awesome. I'm sure he's not complaining that he's in a WrestleMania match.
No.
But I don't know, maybe it's the way, if I had to take a wild guess, either A, they're like, screw it, we have nothing else to do with, nothing else, like no plans. Let's throw him in there, see what he does with these other guys, or maybe, I mean, I think he's like 40, 41?
Yeah, he's up there age-wise.
Unless maybe he's thinking of hanging them up soon, and they're like, you know what, here's your WrestleMania moment. I don't know.
Possibly. I just think him and Harper, they're kind of thrown in there to just fill as fillers. If you had Bryan, Ziggler, maybe Ambrose and obviously Barrett in a 4-way, I thought that would have been a little bit more legitimate. And like, whoa. Obviously there's only a couple guys that could win this match. Others are technically fillers, and that it's basically a Money in a Bank match, just with a title hanging out instead of obviously instead of a briefcase. So there's going to be a lot of high spots, and maybe there's something about Truth that they think he can pull off a high spot or take a bump. So that's why they're throwing him in there. But it's an interesting field, because if you looked at the level of these guys. Daniel Bryan and Truth fighting for the same title, not so much. One guy's like completely over, one's been a jobber. Right. What the thing about tonight that kind of threw me off and puzzled me the most was actually the Divas title match.
Oh, with Paige and
Nikki Bella.
Nikki Bella. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're having a Divas title match on Raw, yet the pay-per-view, WrestleMania, the biggest pay-per-view of the year, you're having a tag team match, which is basically like a Raw match. It could have thrown in any time.
Right.
Why would you do that in reverse order? It makes it so much more, it makes it so much more important to have a Divas match on Raw, and then you're basically saying, we're just going to have a second-tier tag team match at Mania, while the title's defended on Raw right before Mania. I thought it was just crazy booking.
I totally agree with you. If I was in charge of that, I would have, instead of a tag team 2-on-2, I would have made it a fatal 4.
Yep.
Put the title on the line.
And let them battle it out. Even have the sister versus sister. You could have had more storylines come off of that. And kind of maybe them being on the same page, the Bellas, but kind of looking over each other's shoulder, because the title's on the line. I just thought, you could have possibly had a one-on-one match, Paige versus Nikki, but don't put the title on the line, because it just completely takes a crap at what you're trying to do at a pay-per-view, since there's no title on the line. I thought it was just poor booking tonight, and it was just a glaring thing that came out. Another thing, that kind of struck me is weird in a sense. I wasn't sure what to take of it, was the Bill Simmons and Snoop Dogg appearances.
Yeah, The only thing I can think of, it's they're in LA.
Yeah.
And they want to do something to appear on TMZ and,
and ESPN, get a shout out.
Yeah. That's the only thing I can think of why they're doing all that.
But the only thing that's bad, it's perfectly okay if this was a random Raw in LA in April. this is WrestleMania is less than 7 days away, 6 days away, and you are basically trying to put over two celebrity guests, on the show instead of putting over the top storylines and make sure everything fits in. They were trying to. It's just. I mean, they did incorporate Hogan with a segment with Snoop Dogg, but Axel's not going to be at Mania, so.
God. That segment with the three of them.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. I thought that's like you do that for a show that's not right before Mania. Right. Even if this was like a month ago, right after Royal Rumble, possibly. But I just thought it was like not well placed. You could have had him in a crowd or whatever, or just make a quick camera focus on him, but not have two segments kind of focus on them. I thought that was poor booking again, that just trying to get like the cheap attention grab when the biggest show of the year is 6 days away and you should be focusing on that.
I totally agree. The only thing that stuck out to me in that segment really was the size difference of Snoop Dogg's arms.
Yeah, he looked like a 5-year-old next to Hogan. It was insane. It looked so goofy. And the funniest thing is, I'm trying to figure out as I'm watching, is he a Hogan mark as a kid? Is he like grew up on Hogan or not? Because he couldn't execute any of Hogan's, taunts and moves and maneuvers or anything like that.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Oh my god. He kept looking and then he messed up the taunt.
He messed it up every time he looked at it, which is like makes it even more sad.
Oh, Snoop.
Yep. That's what it was. That's what happens when you bring celebrity guests before Mania.
Exactly. But Bill Simmons, he's a real WWE fan.
He was. Right? Yeah. He had some good knowledge. Like I was so surprised how much of knowledge he had on WWE and history. He completely fit in. I was really impressed.
It's funny because I've noticed there's a couple of ESPN guys that people don't really realize. I think Nick Flores.
Robert Flores. Robert Flores.
There we go.
And Michelle Beto, who was there in attendance today. They're huge WWE fans. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, I thought that was interesting, how Bill Simmons, took it to JBL.
That was great.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, if you don't mind me bringing up the Andre the Giant Memorial.
Yes, I was going there next, but let's hit that.
What do you think about that?
You know what? They started it last year, and it seemed cool in theory since it was like the anniversary of WrestleMania and Hogan was doing the hosting, so it fit in. This year, it just looks so out of place, and the guys that I saw in the ring today, they just none of them. I guess it's supposed to be. It kind of moved Cesaro, right? It pushed him last year to get that trophy. That doesn't mean anything, but they just work at it. It's like a slammy or something. But he did get a push afterwards. This year, if you're trying to give a minor push right post Mania, who's gonna win that Battle Royal? There's no one that really looks deserving or like up and coming. They had Ryback win tonight, but that wouldn't do anything.
Right, I agree. Yeah, because last year that Cesaro win, and they should push him a lot more, in my opinion.
Oh, they are just doing a terrible job with him.
Especially like when Vince said he doesn't have that it factor on was it Austin's podcast?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh Lord.
Austin loves him, by the way. I listened to Austin's on Austin's podcast frequently. He mentions Cesaro as one of the guys that he really, really likes.
The fans love him. He knows what he's doing in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
He's not bad on the mic. I don't know.
He's got the look,
Exactly.
I mean, I don't get it. And he had a push. When he was with Heyman that whole time, when they were doing that angle, I thought he was getting to main event status, and then they just pulled the plug on him, just out of nowhere, and they're known to do that. They did the same thing with Sandow a couple years back, where he was getting that push, and they pulled the plug. They've done it with Ziggler before when he was briefly world champ and then he got injured. They pulled the plug. They just don't have faith in their upper mid card. They really don't, as ever advancing.
And the one because I've read online supposedly the Ziggler one that they're nervous because he always gets hurt when they do push him.
Right.
But the one with Sandow, I think he probably pissed someone off because he kept doing those. He kept jobbing and then doing those characters.
Yeah, those like make, like, we're going to make fun of you because
Right.
you suck type of characters. Right.
So I'm like, he probably had to really say something that upset someone backstage, because he was the Money in the Bank winner,
Mm-hmm.
and he lost to Cena when he cashed in on Raw. But I mean, look at him now as Damien Mizdow. The fans love him. He's
Yeah.
over like crazy.
Yeah, they do. And you know what? That just shows they never gave up on him as much as the WWE has, buried him over the past year. The fans have always kind of stuck behind him no matter what, even through his gimmicks, because you can tell the guy does work hard. And if you're going to go out there and, live with this gimmick, and these were like embarrassing gimmicks too,
Yeah,
they were badly written and he made the best of it. That just shows a guy's the true worker and a team player, and he deserves better than that.
exactly, exactly. But going back to the battle royal, I agree with what you said. There's no one that really sticks out this year as a winner, and if they do win, you don't really see them going far.
No. The only one I could think is actually Sandow. He's in it, and that might be the best choice. I'm looking at the list right now. You have Kane, Big Show. Yeah, they're legitimate guys, but there's nothing to gain from that. Swagger, same thing. Ryback, they're in the same category. Nothing's going to move the needle. Miz got heat already on him. I'm just looking at the only guys. You have Henry, you have Goldust, Ryder, Adam Rose, they have no chance. Sandow really sticks like the guy that could get a small push off of it. They just, at least they promote it on TV and kind of talk about, oh, he's the winner of the Battle Royal. And plus, it would enhance possibly his storyline with Miz, too. If you were to eliminate Miz and if they came down to them two or whatnot.
Can you imagine if, yeah, exactly, because if he wins, the stunt double has the trophy and not the main star, the Miz.
That's right.
Which that could add so much to that storyline.
Yeah, and that's a good story. I'm actually surprised. It's one of my glaring things about WrestleMania. They should have done a one-on-one between Miz and Sandow. I think they had a good storyline going for a couple months already, building those two against each other since Rumble. Yeah. And I'm just surprised they didn't get a one-on-one match. You could have taken something else off the show.
Yeah, because I remember it looked like they wanted to do them two one-on-one and also Goldust and Stardust one-on-one.
Yeah, I that's another one I really kind of wish they had done because they've been basically begging for it. Goldust and Stardust, Cody, they've been begging for it since last Mania to work together, and they never got the chance.
And I guarantee you, Goldust, for his age, moves great in the ring.
Yes.
I guarantee you he'll be more than happy to put his brother over.
Oh, no question. He would want to put his brother over. Yep. That would have been no question. I thought it would have been a good match, actually. They could work. Both of them work well. Yep. And it's just another kind of missed opportunity. Even for a pre-show. That could have been a good pre-show match, on the WWE Network right before WrestleMania. Still would have given them that WrestleMania match, brother versus brother. I mean, storylines you could have gone off of that one. It's similar to kind of Mizdow versus Miz, the Heat. There's just two things they missed on, I think. Also tonight we had the Cena-Rusev interaction again. And you know what? It just seems they're really pushing almost too much down our throats. They're pushing Rusev as like this dominant Brock Lesnar type when he's not, and they're trying to make Cena look, tapping out all the time and being in the lock. And I'm still not believing it. I'm not believing it.
It's like they're trying to do a 2015 version of Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik, basically.
Yes, it sounds like it now, especially after that sick promo Cena cut about getting the title back to America and representing it. I think it's cheesy, and that storyline, I'm just not buying. That's one of the matches. I know Cena's involved, and he's like a huge name, but that one seems like a snooze fest, and I'm just not excited or looking forward to even seeing that at all, especially since they gave it away at Fastlane. Why would you do that? Gave it away at Fastlane. They had a complete full match. It wasn't even a, disqualification or any, like, quick ending. No, it was just a full match.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Phone was on, froze up on me for a minute.
Oh, it's all good. No, I was just saying that, they gave the match away at Fastlane. So a month later, less than a month at Mania, that doesn't do anything. That's not fresh or new.
Right.
They should have waited.
The whole Rusev Cena thing, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Rusev, to me, I like Rusev personally, but I don't know if I don't know. I'm just not. I'm neutral right now with him.
Yeah.
I'm very neutral. I don't hate him. I don't love him. I think he's got potential. I know when he was in NXT, I remember I read an article saying that I guess the WWE guys love him and see him as a potential like Cena in the future.
Oh, I don't. I could see
Right.
him as a bruiser, kind of a, big body that's around, but no way. The guy, he needs Lana completely to do he needs a mouthpiece. He can't
Yes.
talk whatsoever.
Totally agree. He's a bulldozer. That's really
Yes.
what he is.
Yeah, he's a big bulldozer, potentially a better version of what they wanted Ryback to be.
Ooh, yeah.
Right?
Okay.
In the past, as a heel, Ryback heel that didn't work out, but I think he could be that Ryback, that bulldozer, and they're kind of both similar in a sense. They're both like big, but they're not tall, so they're kind of small too. They're just small and bulky. So I see that as their reclamation project on a failed Ryback attempt.
That's actually a very good one,
yeah. Also, tonight we had a Bray Wyatt promo, and I thought it was great.
the man knows how to work the mic.
Yeah, he does. He is so good. And the thing is, the way he talks is not only intelligent, but you understand what he's saying. It's not just like, I think in the beginning when he came out, people were, having troubles trying to get the meanings of his promos. They were too deep, and then too in depth. But I think now he's basically kind of dumbed it down, but it's still interesting and the way he projects it. But now you can understand everything he's trying to say. And it's so good. And he literally is carrying a feud by himself.
Yes, he is. Yes,
and he's pulling it off, which means that's scary hard to do. If a guy can pull off a feud for a Mania versus Taker by himself, cutting promos every week, and to a point where you don't even need Taker, the guy's doing something really good.
Yes, he is. He's putting in the work, and it shows. And I mean, like I've read online that he writes all his promos by himself.
Yes.
And then he just shows the writers like, all right, this is what I have. What do you guys think? And they're like, all right, good to go.
Yeah, he definitely. I heard him on the Austin podcast, and that's what they were talking about that. And yeah, he comes up with his own stuff. The guy's he's got in mind for the business for sure. And, he's still not even reaching his potential yet. He could be, if he keeps it up, I really think he's going to have not only a long career, but he can have a career close to a Kane Undertaker type. I think he can. This is a gimmick that can stay. Usually those, horror gimmicks don't pan out. But I think, obviously Undertaker's a unique one. But I think Wyatt's really onto something. And that's a gimmick that he could keep on rolling for a long time.
I totally agree 100%. And, the Undertaker, he's the man. No one's going to take his legacy. Mm-hmm. But I agree. I can see them almost like Undertaker's almost passing the torch to Bray Wyatt of being that one, that different mystical, creepy gimmick character guy. I guess.
I agree.
I'm wording it right.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. The bad, the evilness or whatever is right. He referred to it as the thing. As the face of evil, the new face of evil.
Yeah, so that's how I see it. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, Bray Wyatt can't lose at Mania, but neither can Undertaker." Hey, man, let's just enjoy the show. That's what I'm going to say.
That's a good point. And then finally, you had that Ziggler versus Bryan match, and that was a long rumored WrestleMania match for those two, and they basically put it on Raw right before. This is where we would have probably gotten close to it, maybe obviously a little bit better at Mania, but that was their way of like, hey, they're not going to wrestle Mania, but we're going to throw it right before Mania on the Raw. And I thought they had a great match, and I am actually stunned that Ziggler got a clean win over Bryan.
Yeah, man, I remember because on Twitter they were even flirting with storyline because
right.
They were retweeting both Bryan and Ziggler that they wanted to face each other. But yeah, I agree. Those two in the ring are so smooth, and they in my opinion, if they would have had their one-on-one match, that would have stolen the show.
Yeah. I think so, and and they know it too. And I think, in a weird way, I think WWE was so aware and almost fearful of that they didn't want them to steal the show. There was rumors if they were going to fight, they would go on first. they were gonna open the show, you know, and that's only because you don't want them later on or in the middle because people would be talking about it and still, just completely marking out to that match. I think they were
Right.
worried to a point where, hey, we're not gonna let them steal the show, so we have tons of other matches we want, people to pay attention to, like Cena Rusev instead of that one stealing the show. So it would have made a lot of matches look bad, no question.
I totally agree. Yeah, that's the only reason that really I can think about the same reason. I mean, I
Because
don't
they
know
both
what.
wanted it. They both were campaigning for it, so it's not them, so it's nixed by Vince,
Yeah,
and that's the only reason I could think. They were literally afraid they would steal the show, and they didn't want to, in their mind, mid card level guy stealing the spotlight from Cena or Orton or whoever.
right. Rollins and them. Yeah,
Yeah.
Vince has his guys,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what he wants.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, that's what he wants.
and unfortunately, we don't see him at that. But I was glad that Ziggler actually got the pin. It really made him look strong, and going forward, it's going to make him look strong. That was really Brian, basically giving one to Ziggler.
Yeah.
They're close, they're friends, so I thought that was really cool that he actually, um, let him win that match in a
Right.
sense.
Yeah,
Um,
it's funny too because WWE gave the fans the match. Like, all right, here you go. And it's funny because this sort of reminds me of the Rumble this past year, how people were just so mad
mm-hmm.
about how things were treated with Ziggler and Ambrose
and Brian, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think a lot of people remember that now, which is good.
Well, they're hoping they don't, but that's
Yeah.
also why Ambrose was the special guest referee. They knew those three were the guys that everyone wanted, so it was a subtle jab, at the fans tonight by the WWE, and kind of giving them a preview of what they're gonna miss out and what they wanted in a sense too. And
Yeah, exactly.
And then, of course, the show closed with a great promo by Paul Heyman. Lesnar was in attendance. Wow, was that a good promo or what?
I love Heyman. Every time he's on the mic, people are quiet and they're listening.
Mm-hmm.
They are listening, and oh man, he to a lot of people sold the main event. Like he was saying, he sold the main event.
He did. He completely did. Because you know what makes him so good? He literally tells you the truth and what you're thinking.
Yes.
He shoots.
Yes.
He shoots live, and he puts it in a way where it not only goes to the marks, the internet community, they all get it, they get their big pop for him, but it also hits the casuals too.
Yep.
He just caters to every part of the audience, and he's so good in projecting that. And today he sold it the way, yes, there's got to be a one winner only. Someone's going to be disappointed. Either Brock's been like a phony in a sense. He even threw a bit Brock under the bus. If he were to lose. And then same thing with the push for Reigns. So he puts everything in a perspective, which is so good.
I love, and just like you were saying, he's 100% real, and he brings in things sometimes that I feel like we're not supposed to know that or hear that, but he said it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I think it was Raw maybe 2 weeks ago when he said if Brock wants to unify WWE and the UFC title, I was like, oh, I guarantee you Vince isn't too happy that he's talking about UFC and Lesnar possibly leaving and going over there again.
Yeah, he shoots. He definitely shoots, and I think he has the free reign to do it at this point, because he wouldn't be doing it. But he's outstanding at it, and it was just the best promo you could ask for, literally right before Mania. You couldn't sell the event the way he sold it. And he closed the deal. And then you had Roman obviously appear and had that little tug for the title. But to me, he looked weak just by appearing. It would have been okay if he just never came down to the ring. He just his music hit and he was standing and looking down. I think that could have been a good ending too. But because you just can't, there's no way you can get a pop coming into a ring after that promo.
Yeah, and did you even hear the fans? They were cheering Lesnar more than Roman.
Yes. They definitely did. It's going to be interesting. I thought it was an okay Raw. I think they could have done a little bit better on some of the matches. Obviously, their intention was to start off by putting over the Sting Triple H match, and then putting emphasis on the Lesnar main event. And they threw in some of the other storylines in there too. Obviously, you had the Cena thing, and Bray did what he could. But yeah, I think they did spend actually a lot of time focusing on that ladder match. You had a lot of matches and involvement from the ladder participants.
I agree. And then, if you mind me adding, I'm actually also really excited for the Raw after WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, that's the biggest Raw of the year, no question.
I'm really excited to see what happens with that, with everything, because I think this WrestleMania you'll definitely see. It's almost like WrestleMania 20 when a lot of the young guys.
Yeah, it was the change of the guard. Yep.
Mm-hmm. This is how I see WrestleMania 31 personally.
I think you're right. And speaking of WrestleMania 31, let's do our preview because it's this Sunday.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, right? Does it feel like Mania to you? Because you get that sense of it like right before Mania. It's like, does it feel like WrestleMania or it doesn't? Last year, I kind of didn't feel it until like the very few last couple of days before.
Right.
But I think this year it's pretty good. I think the build-up has been good. I remember one year, I think, last year I think they were really kind of scattered with the storylines. Nothing was settled till like really late in the process.
That's when they added Daniel Bryan last minute.
Right. Everything was last minute last year.
Mm-hmm. I do remember that.
And the year before, everything was kind of, you had The Rock and Cena thing. Everything seemed like set, and it was just a bunch of rematches with Triple H and Taker. The previous Mania, and that didn't feel like Mania to me because it just felt like a rehash. But this one's got some buzz, I think, because it's got a lot of new interesting things, and I think it's going to be unpredictable. Let's go down the list of the matches scheduled for the event and kind of comment on each one. So the pre-show, instead of having Goldust versus Stardust or Miz versus Mizdow, which they had already built in storylines, it could have been a great way to start off the show. They're going to have the Usos and Los Matadores and Big E and Kofi versus Cesaro and Tyson Kidd in a four-way battle for the tag team titles. I mean, you did need to put out the tag team titles there.
Yep.
I mean, Cesaro and Tyson, cool, and Usos are cool, but the other two teams, I mean, really, I don't know. They should have been probably in the Battle Royal. We should have done Usos or versus Cesaro and Kidd.
Right, yeah. To me, personally, I'm not a huge fan of the New Day.
Neither am I. They're just not getting over.
Right, and I mean, when it comes to WrestleMania season, I'm a huge fan of doing something crazy for the tag titles. Growing up and watching those TLC matches or those tag team turmoil matches back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, but I mean, I have to agree. I would have rather done maybe the Usos versus Kidd and Cesaro.
Yeah.
Throwing in the Matadors into the Battle Royal. New Day, throw all three of them in the Battle Royal. But I mean, yeah,
it's not terrible. I mean, but it could have been better. I still would think, lay off the tag team titles actually for WrestleMania and have one of those other matches. I thought it would have been just better storylines.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's a pre-show, so the other matches.
Pre-show wise, I feel like it'll be alright. It'll fit.
Yeah, I think so. Ultimately, when it comes down to that. Obviously, we touched on the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. That's probably going to be one of the first. I think they should start that off, actually. I think that should be the starting match for Mania to open it up.
Yeah. I feel like I would open up with the Battle Royal, but something tells me that they're gonna open with the ladder match. Just something tells me.
I think you might be right. I really do. I think they're going to actually open with a ladder match. And the Battle Royal is just going to get squeezed in as a second or third match. I see that. And obviously the Battle Royal was just not a big... Did they open it last year with the Battle Royal? I think they did. Or was it it might have been either a pre-show match. It was very early on. I think they did actually open that.
I think it was the opener, yeah.
Yeah, it was the opener last year. I don't think they do it twice in a row.
But like you were saying, they don't really have anyone in this year's Battle Royal that really sticks
No,
out.
last year you did have Cesaro, and you kind of felt like he might be the pick, you know? But this year, it's just literally looking at this list, like Fandango, Curtis Axel, Adam Rose, Zack Ryder, Heath Slater. Like, come on, you know?
Right.
They're going to have some NXT guys, apparently.
Oh, they're doing that tournament, right? Where the winner goes.
Yeah, maybe a winner of that could win that. I could see that. That'd be a nice push to start off, you know, on the main roster.
Well, that'd be nice because, what's his name, Adrian Neville?
Yes, Adrian Neville and Sami Zayn are two guys that, you know.
Right. So, I mean, I know they want to call up Neville after WrestleMania season, so...
That might be the pick here. If not, you go with Damian Sandow. He's got the most to gain. He's the hottest one over with a crowd.
Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and it would add to that feud, like you just brought up, the whole trophy versus Miss not having a trophy. You know, you could totally run with that.
Yeah, man. Add spice. Add some great spice to it.
Definitely. Also, as we mentioned, the AJ Lee and Paige versus Bella twins, I think that's just a filler somewhere in the middle of the show.
They're doing it because, what was it, last year or 2 years ago, they had to take out the Divas match because of time?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bellas, I think, let's just say they're lucky that they're dating Cena and Bryan.
Oh, yeah, they are. Because they would have no business being there. And you know what? I actually think this could be possibly AJ Lee's last match. I mean, it's been rumored for a while that she's been gone and she kind of comes back and leaves. Right. But I have a feeling she's not going to be there too long. I mean, her husband's really against the WWE, so... Yeah, I think this could be her send-off in a way. It's WrestleMania, you know, kind of a last thing, and she's just in a tag team match. She's kind of an addition to it. I could see this being her send-off in a way.
I agree, yeah, because I remember at the Slammies, they were saying that her speech was almost like a tease saying that I hope the women of NXT can do what I did or whatever.
Right.
And like you said, there are rumors for a while that she's gonna go. I remember there was that rumor that she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And I feel like WWE gives her a lot of crap back. I mean, I could be 100% wrong, but I can see them giving her crap because of her husband.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which is not fair at all.
It's not.
But I mean, financially, she doesn't need the job because I'm sure she's got money. Punk's got money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see her leaving sooner than.
I could see that, and I could see that being a transition, her leaving and then bringing up one of the NXT girls like Charlotte, who's been rumored to be coming up for like months almost.
Her and Bayley, no?
Yeah, both of them. I mean, so this could be a sense of a write-off for AJ. I could see that, but like I said, they missed the mark completely by throwing that title match tonight on Raw and just really kind of taking a piss on that main event. I mean, that match at Mania.
Agree. 100% agree.
Yeah. Okay, so then you have, obviously, the ladder match for the Intercontinental title. You have Dolph Ziggler, R-Truth, Dean Ambrose, Luke Harper, Stardust, Daniel Bryan, and Bad News Barrett. You know, looking at this list, obviously you eliminate Truth, Harper, Stardust most likely. Bad News Barrett, he's good, but I think they're trying to just waiting to take off the title off of him.
I agree. I love Bad News Barrett, but I don't see him retaining.
Not a chance. I think he was a good placeholder, and it gives him like a little bit of status coming into this match as a champion. They could, obviously, there's three choices: Ziggler, Ambrose, and Daniel Bryan. Ziggler's held the title a bunch of times. I don't see it going to him. It's either Ambrose has been pining for it since Royal Rumble. It's been his mission to get that title. To me, it's between Ambrose and Bryan. And the smart thing would be, you know, logically with the storyline would be to give it to Ambrose.
Yeah.
Since he's been fighting for it. But you know what? If you want to put relevance into that title, if you want people talking about the Intercontinental title, you put it on Daniel Bryan. And the way he's over, that title is going to be over.
I agree 100%. Yeah, my picks were between Bryan and Ambrose. And exactly what you said I was going to say about Ambrose, storyline-wise, he's been going after it, so that would make sense. But I know a lot of people are saying, hey, I think Bryan's going to win. I wouldn't doubt it. I know a lot of people are pissed that he's not in the main event or he's not getting his world title shot because of the injury. So I can definitely see WWE saying, you know what? He's not getting the world title, but he's going to get the Intercontinental title.
And they're going to elevate the title that way. You know, I think they're onto something with these big, main event guys with huge followings having these title matches for a lesser title. You could have easily not involved Bryan and had him versus Ziggler or whatever, and you could have had, just straight up Rusev versus Cena without the title. But them placing the title means something, and I think their goal with this WrestleMania, I think, is to put over, since they have one championship, world title now, the WWE Championship, I think it's for them to elevate these other titles to be like the world title was, when it was on SmackDown, to gain that prestige.
Bro, sorry to interrupt. Right, and I think putting Cena with the U.S. title and Bryan with the Intercontinental title does not hurt.
Definitely wouldn't.
Because, like you said, two big top main event guys with those titles.
It's legitimate. You add legitimacy to the titles. Like, well, if these guys can hold it, they're good enough to hold it, and that title must mean something,
Exactly.
Versus Ziggler, who fans like, but he's held it a bunch of times and it hasn't put over the title. This is their chance.
A 4-time champion?
Right. I think it was, when Barrett was a 5-time Intercontinental Champion, as we found out tonight. So, you need it on a guy like that. Which leads me to, obviously, Cena versus Rusev. That's for the title. We haven't seen Lana, and that's really, obviously she's filming a WWE movie, but that's hindered things. I think she needs to be there just to match Cena on promos, and she can actually match Cena on promos.
Yeah.
So without him, it just beat down and stuff we had like tonight. And I think, you know what I've noticed about that feud? They're really pushing Rusev so hard where he's getting the best of Cena almost too often. It's like Cena's looking really overly weak, and it's non-believable to a point.
Because how they built Cena up over the years.
Right, and now he's just kind of... It makes me think, like, I'm 100% sure Cena is not only winning this match, he's winning this title, and he's going to do it clean, and he's going to probably end up dominating Rusev at Mania because of all this build-up and making him look weak, where there's no chance Rusev wins. And I believe he's still undefeated, so that streak's coming into an end. There's no way Cena's not coming out with that title.
I agree. I can see them doing almost like a Hulk Hogan type of thing where Rusev's gonna, like, for the first minute or two, he's gonna look like no one can touch him, like Cena's gonna have a chance, and then Cena's gonna feed off the energy, and then either give him an attitude adjustment or make him tap out and look like the Cena of old.
Right, and I think this is a less than 10 minutes match. I think it's gonna be a really quick match, actually. I don't see this one going last, especially since they had a half an hour match at Fastlane. There's no way they're going to push that one. And it was kind of a snoozer. I just don't... Honestly, those two together, it's kind of boring in the ring. I'm not buying it.
Because it's like you were saying, they're both short, big guys.
Right.
They're not wrestlers. They're not Kurt Angles. They're not Daniel Bryans. So we're not really going to see wrestling in this match.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I'm not excited about that. But it's I'll give credit to Cena for actually being in a match where taking his ego aside, where it's not about him being in a main event, and kind of being a lower card.
Oh, that's like when going back to Heyman when he said Cena's not in the main event, it's Lesnar. I was like, dang.
Yeah, that was a shot.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That was definitely a shot. So I mean, that just shows a little bit. The last couple of years, Cena fighting last year, going against Wyatt, but they're working Cena back-to-back Manias against up-and-coming guys, in like mid-card level. I mean, mid-card placement on a pay-per-view. So I'll give Cena credit that he stepped aside the last 2 years and is working with the younger guys. Now, I think the match that will steal the night, besides the ladder match, is going to be Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins.
Yes.
I think those two can work together. There's been a good build-up for months. They've been building that up since Survivor Series. between those two guys. They actually planted it after SummerSlam, so it's been planted a long time. Finally, the payoff's coming, and I'm actually excited to see what these two guys do in the ring.
I agree. It reminds me of Randy Orton and CM Punk's WrestleMania match a couple years ago.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking too.
That's what reminds me. I think it could go really either way. Rollins, being the heel trying to steal the win,
Mm-hmm.
or they can also have Orton go against the odds and come out with the win. Whatever they do, but I agree. This one is going to be the show stealer.
It's going to be the show stealer, and you know what? You're right. You don't really. You can go either way. You can have Orton win cleanly, actually, since Seth's been getting the best of him for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have actually Seth win, by cheating, having the security guys, Jamie Noble and, Joey Mercury come up there and interfere, or Kane even, or whatnot, and him pull off the cheap win. So either way, it works. I think it's just going to be the match quality. I think it's very actually similar to that CM Punk Orton match, which was really good, and it kind of, looking back at it now a couple years later, wow, that was one of the show stealers for that Mania, and people didn't really notice it at the time.
Right.
I think this is going to be a really good match, for sure, on this card.
And what I want, and what I think too is, with Rollins' character, if he wins, cool, that can help boost his, almost like his character's ego, not him, but his character's ego.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got the money in the money in the bank briefcase, so he feels like he's on top of the world. And if he loses, you can use that too, because you're like, what, screw it, I don't care if I lose at WrestleMania, because I'm still the money in the bank briefcase. So I think, really, for him, he can't really lose that.
Yeah, he can't. He's set in a sense that briefcase is just making him legitimate, and Orton could actually gain a little bit as a face, being back as a face to pick up a win. So I don't think the result matters here. It's just going to be a quality match, a good match.
Exactly.
Okay, so now on to the top build main event matches. There's always WrestleMania has 2 to 3 top, co-main events, and one of them is going to be Sting versus Triple H.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, this has been a long time coming. Now, when Sting signed with the WWE earlier last year, there was obviously talk of him immediately working The Undertaker. That was what fans wanted. Didn't happen. Looking back at this now, I think the next best guy is Triple H. You can't have Sting work a face, so that excluded Cena, and, him versus Brock just wouldn't work.
Oh, God.
That would have been bad. But Triple H is the most logical choice, if it wasn't Taker, or they could have still spinned it off and done a Bray Wyatt versus Sting would have been interesting.
Oh, yeah, that would have been a good one, too.
That would have been a good one, but I think you need someone bigger for Sting in his first fight,
Yeah.
And Triple H just solves that. And, the whole authority thing, him being part of the, McMahon's and the company, and him still being a WCW guy, so that's a natural extension. It just works, and I'm excited to see this. I think you're going to get the best out of both guys. I'm not sure how Sting can work. It's been a while since he worked a match in TNA. I mean, he can still go, and I'm sure he's been training. I'm just wondering what kind of match this is going to turn out. I know the hype is there for it, and I'm excited, and I know everyone else is excited to see Sting in a match. I'm not sure what the quality of it's going to be. I'm pretty confident in Triple H. He always delivers in Mania, and he's still not that old to do it. I'm just not sure how Sting's going to pull off, and he's going to be able to hang.
I agree, yeah, because Sting, I mean, he is older. He's, 50-something?
Yeah, mid-50s.
And the way I see it is, I'm confident that, if anything, Triple H will help a lot carry the match and help him through it. Triple H did a pretty good job with him and Taker a few years ago. So I'm not worried with him and Sting. But like you said, the quality may not be the best, may not be the worst, but I'm looking at it almost from a storyline.
It's all about the storyline.
Right. And Triple H, one of the big faces from the 90s, 2000s, at the same time when Sting was in WCW.
Mm-hmm.
So you can definitely easily say this is almost like a little Monday Night War thing, WCW and WWE.
It totally is because it's one of the two biggest guys from each company in the Monday Night Wars era. Triple H was a top three guy with Rock and probably Stone Cold. As guys on top in the Attitude Era, and then Sting was obviously him. Being one of the top guys at WCW forever. So this is like a clash, literally, of like history, and like different time eras and eras of the WWE. So obviously the crowd's going to be behind Sting. Triple H knows it. He's built it up nicely to be that coward heel. Though, two things here. I'm kind of on the fence of who's going to win this one. I know the popular belief is like, oh, Sting's got to go over clean. It's his first match. I don't think it'd be the worst thing if Sting lost, and I could see it actually happening.
Triple H doing some beating Sting.
Yeah,
it's an interesting one because yeah, like you said, everyone expects Sting to win.
Mm-hmm.
It's his first match and everything. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Sting would be the type of guy like, yeah, if you want me to put you over, I'll put him over.
Yeah, he would. He definitely would. That's why I'm thinking he would let Triple H do it. And Triple H has been on a bit of a losing streak when it comes to Mania. He lost his Undertaker matches. And last year he fought was it Brock?
He lost to Brock, he lost to Taker.
Yeah, so he's been on a bit of a losing streak when it comes to Mania. So it'd be okay if he won technically, and I could totally see Sting. And it depends too. Depends. Do you believe it's going to be his only match for the WWE?
I do not.
I do not either. I don't. There's no way. I think Sting has one more SummerSlam match in him coming up, and then I think he has got one more Mania match.
There's a rumor I read. I've only read it on one website. They haven't really brought it up on other websites or anything. But one of the rumors I read that they want to do for next year's WrestleMania in Dallas is Sting and Taker and beat both of their retirement matches.
That would be the ideal ending. It really would. I could see. And that'll bring me up to the next point when we're going to discuss Undertaker Bray match, but that does make sense. I think both of them can stretch out one more Mania. If Taker, last time we saw Taker was at last WrestleMania. He can work one match at least for a couple more years if he wanted to. Yep. It's only one match. So. They can protect Sting the same way. Have him show up on TV, work a few a lighter schedule than Brock, basically, and have him work a SummerSlam match. Either he doesn't even have to, but you could if you wanted to, maybe with a Wyatt or something, and then have that one more WrestleMania match that everyone and they know they're very aware WWE that everyone wanted Sting versus Undertaker.
And if they want to sell out the Cowboy Stadium where it seats 100,000 people, Taker and Sting, that would not hurt.
No, and you know what? That's a perfect main event. Like, that's a match to close the show with.
Yes.
For sure,
Yes.
And I really think that's where it's going to. So Sting could lose here and still, have another match for sure at SummerSlam and then next Mania. I find it hard to believe that he'd come back and do one match only.
I agree.
After all these years, I think he's got 2 years in him, and I think they know that too. So I think when it comes down to it, my prediction is he's gonna ultimately win. I think that's what they're gonna do. What's gonna happen at the pay-per-view, but it could go either way.
Yeah, agree.
And now,
and if you want, I was gonna say this is actually, I think, it'll probably be my first time watching a legit full match storyline and everything of Sting. Because even in TNA, I only saw clips.
Right.
So I'm really excited.
It's been a while, and this one's been set up since Survivor Series 2, so it's a long burn also. So for this feud, I think they've done well. I think they've done the best they could with this feud, and it's got me intrigued for sure. And now the Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt. Now this is somewhat of a dream scenario. Bray Wyatt is the new mystical, creepy, eerie character. He's just a heel version of, a different version heel of the Undertaker, and I think it's like a dream scenario too, to have these two like mystical characters go against each other, one heel and one face. I'm glad Undertaker came back for this one, and I think they did the right thing by giving Wyatt to him, especially if there's still a chance that he's going to work Sting next year. I think this is a right timing to do Wyatt right when he's rising to the top and he's breaking out into that elite category. Who better to give him than Taker?
I agree, and Taker can teach him so much.
Yes,
so much. And Bray Wyatt, I remember, I think it was on Jericho's podcast. He said, "Give him 1 year, and he'll give him a year, and he'll be in the title picture."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he didn't mention that on Austin's podcast. Also, I totally see this guy being possibly in a main event next year with the championship. There's going to be a title in his future, no question. Yeah, there's a run for him. They've been planning, but I really think this Undertaker match and what you think of the lead up, the promos that have been going on. Obviously Wyatt's been carrying everything. I think he did a great job starting at Fastlane with the casket thing, where he came out. And he's just showing a side just completely, and I actually believe it. The thing is, I believe that he's completely unfazed about the Undertaker. Yep. Versus some other guys in the past where like, ooh, they still creeped out or like, get scared when his music hits.
Right, like was it Raw? Like it was a recent Raw when he was calling out the Undertaker and he had the chair and the urn in the ring.
Yes.
And then the lights went off, the Thunderbolt, and then Taker said, he accepted the challenge. And normally, like you said, a lot of guys would start freaking out at that point. Well, Bray Wyatt he started laughing.
Yeah. He
started laughing, and that's what I love because to me, he's almost like the love child of Taker and Mankind.
Yes, he is. Completely. And he's, and you know what? And the thing is, obviously, there's a huge size difference between Taker and Bray, but you don't even believe in that. You don't even think about it because you believe legitimately that Wyatt is, he can run with Undertaker.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's all good. You could legitimately believe that he belongs with Taker, and he is a legitimate contender and a opponent. And this match, to me, obviously the promos have been good. It would have helped to see at least Undertaker, not necessarily in person, but maybe have him like show up in the Tron or a little bit more or whatnot.
Right.
So it's not
promo work or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they had his little, things that he does, supernatural things, but you needed to see him in a sense, like him just appear in some form or talking a reaction to Wyatt, because it seems like Wyatt's just cutting a bunch of monologues, good ones, great ones, but it's like he's going against himself in a way,
Right, we're missing that the casket trying to tease him, or an urn out of nowhere, or just the lightning bolts or the lights going out. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, we're missing that, and it would have added a little bit more, but no question Wyatt's done as best as he could. As far as the winner of this match, I think it's going to be a solid match. I really do.
Yeah.
I think Undertaker's going to be ready for this, and I think, Wyatt can definitely work. He's a good wrestler. It's going to be an interesting clash of styles, too. But ultimately, this one is one match I'm split the most on. I have no idea who's going to win this.
I agree. I totally agree. I have no idea. I want to see it because I don't know what to expect at all from any point. I don't know if they're going to make the characters like completely not scared of each other. If they're going to be like, oh, what's this guy's deal? Who's going to win? How it's going to end? Because Taker coming off the loss from WrestleMania.
2 in a row would be like, whoa, right?
Exactly.
And then him versus Sting would almost be, in a sense, irrelevant because then Taker's like on a losing streak. And every time he loses, it's less of an intimidation factor, just generally to him. So do you preserve his character and be like, okay, Brock was the only one that he, maybe lucked out or whatnot, Taker's back, and give Taker the win as you would expect in Mania, but if you give Wyatt the win, that puts him over so much. That does wonders to his career.
I agree. The way I see it, for Wyatt, I think it's a win-win no matter what, because he can say, he danced at WrestleMania with The Undertaker.
And especially if he could lose the match, but maybe take him out like Triple H did, destroyed, Taker so bad that he had to be wheeled out. Remember that?
Right.
That whole thing. He couldn't walk out. So you can make Wyatt look strong. That's for sure.
Exactly.
And he could still pull it off and cut promos for the rest of the year because Taker's not going to be there. But it's a interesting decision, and this really depends. I don't know how much contact and communication WWE has had with Taker and how much they know. And same thing affects Brock too, because if Brock is to leave, then that win versus Taker, necessarily kind of evaporates at this point,
Right.
But if he stays around, he's still the remaining guy that beat Taker, then, he still holds that status. But do you do that? I mean, you would make Undertaker look weak losing to Bray. You would, because then, he's old and done. If he lost twice in Mania, he can't do it anymore. Right. That would be the talk.
I think Bray can afford losing more at WrestleMania.
Yes.
Than Taker can.
I believe that too, and I think ultimately that's what's going to happen. I think they are going to have Taker win after a grueling fight. I think they're going to have Bray really give it to him, where Taker's like, not being able to walk out, or even after the match, something could happen where Taker vanishes and disappears because of Wyatt. Maybe one of Wyatt's minions or someone takes out Taker. Or maybe he puts Taker in a casket, after the match, or beats him up. There could be something like that.
If he still had the Wyatt family, that would have been perfect.
That would have been perfect, actually, because that would have been more believable. They just take out and knock out Taker till next Mania. They beat him down so bad. I mean, it could be a mini reunion of the Wyatt family. You never know. They could come out for one night, help him, especially Luke Harper.
Bray did say that even though the Harper and Rowan had their little feud, Bray did say in an interview, he's like, the Wyatts, he's like, we're always together. He's like, it's not the last time you've seen of us.
And what about this? What about a new Wyatt family? What about him bringing one of some NXT guy, or and then come out and actually make a huge debut that way and beat down Undertaker as a new disciple of Wyatt? Doesn't mean just because Luke Harper and Rowan are gone, he doesn't have new disciples.
Right.
He's still the preacher. He's still he needs followers. So that would be a great way to elevate someone from NXT. Two guys that come to mind could be the Ascension, but they've been so bad and a joke. They've literally been like a complete joke since debuting on a roster. And those would have been good guys if they hadn't been ruined to this point. But maybe that's a way to bring them back up, kind of ditch the Road Warriors gimmick that they're trying to run, the cheap Road Warriors gimmick, and have them be Bray's disciples. There's options here to basically, what I'm thinking is have Undertaker win, but not have him walk out.
Okay, yeah.
That's the perfect ending. But it's going to be a compelling match for sure.
Yeah.
And now on to the big main event, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. We heard the promos tonight. Heyman's been carrying this feud because both guys can't really talk. I don't want to hear Roman on the mic because he's bad. Do you think, just starting off, that Roman is ready for this moment, or he's been forced basically and pushed too fast?
I think he's been pushed way too fast.
So do I.
I'll admit it. He's got the look.
No denying.
The family, his uncles and cousins and all that. His brother, who was Umaga.
Yeah.
All right, he's in a great family. He's got the look and everything, but I think they're rushing it way too fast for Roman. He's still a little green, I think. He's got the spear. He's got the Superman punch. He's got his catchphrase, believe that, and that's it.
That's it. And you know what? The thing is, when the fans are turning against you, and he was liked. It's not like this guy was disliked. The fans were pushing for him when he was with the Shield. That was one of their breakout guys. The most, even when he went solo. But when the fans turn on a guy that's supposed to be a big baby face, that is not good. And you mentioned today the boos and the cheers for Lesnar. I completely could see a WrestleMania when those two guys walk out for the match where Lesnar gets cheered, and it's a different crowd too. It's that international crowd,
Yes.
and Reigns coming from the crowd is just going to get killed by the crowd. I could completely see that.
Vince knows it, and Vince really wants Roman to be his Cena.
For sure.
That's his guy. That's his pick, and I'm fine with Roman in the future, but not right at this very moment. Not yet.
And think about it too. If he's going to be the guy to defeat Lesnar, I mean, basically what you were doing is you're putting the Undertaker streak onto Lesnar, so he's like carrying over the streak, because whoever knocks down Lesnar means that, wow, he is someone that not only beat Lesnar, but that's the guy that took Undertaker's streak, so you do a double whammy,
Right.
You knocked out the guy who broke the streak and who's like been dominating since SummerSlam.
Right.
That's a big thing to put on someone, I mean, you need to be completely legit and be the guy, no question.
You know the jokes of Vince wanting to make Roman look strong?
No.
Well, Punk said that.
Oh yeah, on the podcast. That's right. Make him look strong. Punk's podcast with Colt Cabana.
This would be it. That would make Roman look insanely strong.
That would. Yeah, that's right. And Punk was making light of it, saying like, "What I'm not. I was planning not to make him look strong. Like they were so paranoid about making him look strong." And that's the thing. And if you're that paranoid, that's scary too. That you need to, be so scared to make him look so strong because you don't believe he can stand out on his own and look strong.
And the thing with WWE is they've dropped the ball with a lot of guys in the past.
Oh yeah,
that are they have the look, but then they drop the ball or they don't believe in 100%. And they're investing a lot with Roman.
They are.
They're investing a lot with him, and all three Shield guys, Roman, Seth, Dean, they're all great. All three of them.
Yes, those three all three of them came out and succeeded.
I agree. But if you ask me, I think Seth and Ambrose set the bar a lot higher.
And they're way further ahead than he is right now.
Yes.
No question. And that's the thing. Yes, physically, those two match up. It's going to be a good battle to see because I believe Reigns can run with, Lesnar size-wise, and look-wise. The thing is, they're both, Brock is all right in the ring. He's stiff sometimes, and he's, he could knock you, legitimately stiff shot you, just because he feels like it.
Yeah.
I'm worried about Reigns because he needs people to carry him in the ring, and Brock is not a guy that'll carry you, You need to know how to protect yourself versus Brock in the ring, and that's the scary part.
Well, I heard I heard that that's why they put Roman versus Daniel Bryan at Fastlane. Because apparently they said that Daniel's one of the most physical, tough guys in the ring.
Yeah.
So they want to give Roman almost like a small sample of what to expect at WrestleMania.
It's technically the word is small sample because when Brock kicks or punches, it's like nothing that Bryan can do,
Yeah.
And Bryan's such a professional and good worker and careful in the ring. Brock is wild, and unpredictable.
He's a beast, just like Heyman says.
Yes, he is, and he's uncontrollable in the ring too. So you've seen him like open up guys, and they didn't even blade. They legitimately, bled because of his stiff shots. So Reigns, that's going to be. I don't know how. I think this is a 20-minute match maximum. I don't think this goes on too long.
It shouldn't go half an hour.
No, that's way too much for a match like that because Brock's a short worker, unless he has someone good with him, that can patrol the ring or that can carry the match, like a Triple H who can completely dictate a match, but not with Roman. Roman's too green and the thing is this, it's going to come down to who wins this match. Well, we don't know, and WWE might not know, is Brock re-signing with him or not,
Right.
There's so much question still going on, and he's waiting till the last minute, obviously because they have more leverage with UFC, and his contract's still through the Monday Night Raw, and that's it, you know? So they need to be either sure, and maybe they are behind the scenes. Maybe there's been some kind of agreement already reached, or not. In that case, they cannot afford. Either way, looking at it, I don't think you can afford to leave the title on Brock. You know,
Right.
that's not only because you build up Roman for so long throughout the year. That's been their guy. They've been trying to make it look good. And Brock is just so unpredictable that even if you leave the title and he's promised he's going to stay, you know, how long can you continue having a guy that's only showing up? He's not going to be showing up after. Usually Extreme Rules is like a follow-up to Mania with feuds, so you can see him there, but Brock isn't going to be around there for May, June, July, you know, that's for sure.
The way I see it is, because I read a rumor online that WWE is pushing really hard to re-sign Brock, and if they re-sign him, I'm assuming they're gonna, part of the deal would be you retain at Mania. What I would do if I was in charge or had any power whatsoever booking this match, I would probably have Brock win and retain at Mania, and then at Extreme Rules, I would have, you know, because of a cage match or a Street Fighter.
Right. It's Extreme Rules, yeah, probably. It's
Roman win.
Yes.
And then that way, you get the title on Roman Reigns, but it's not technically 100% clean, which doesn't hurt that Lesnar beat Taker.
Yes. That's a good point about going about it. And think about it too. WrestleMania main events usually end with a babyface winning. You had Bryan winning last year, you know, Cena, Rock. I mean, they're both babyfaces, but you don't see heels retaining or winning the match at Mania. But this is what I'm proposing. You liked my article that was on PW Mania that I wrote about this being the WrestleMania of Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
And boy, did I have a lot of positive feedback on that. My theory all along has been cashing in the Money in a Bank at Mania. Never been done before. A heel would win, which would be the last time you could see like a big turn and a twist since Austin turned on Rock at 17. Or was it 18, I believe? It was, I think, 17. And that was the last time there was a huge shock and a heel came out on top. But how would that be? And my points for this are that as much as they build up Reigns throughout the year, that's been their guy, they've built up Seth just as much. He's the guy that's had the Money in a Bank for like 10 months at this point. And definitely, they're not going to squander that opportunity for him to cash in and not win the title. He's winning a title. He has to. But then there comes the time where, you know, it was Money in Bank, I think it's June. He needs to cash it in within a year, technically, you know?
Yeah.
So when is that going to happen? Yeah, you could wait till like May or one of those times, but what better way to build up a guy that he's been the face of authority, you know, which are the central figures on WWE programming. He's been the handpicked one on TV by Triple H and Stephanie. This is a guy they've invested so much, but I feel like they've been sort of hiding him. He's been focused. He's been, you know, almost a top guy, but they've been kind of like subtly hiding him and projecting, you know, Roman and Daniel. I think maybe in a sense that Roman could be a placeholder for Seth Rollins, in a sense that you have Roman win, and this is where everyone wins in this situation. Roman wins the match cleanly versus Brock, and then Seth cashes in on Roman. That starts a feud between them that could last to the next couple pay-per-views, and then have a all-Shield triple threat match at SummerSlam for a title, which is what people have been wanting. You work for that, but that sets up a legitimate Reigns versus Rollins feud, which really hasn't happened yet. And Reigns cashes in finally, and you could even, he doesn't have to be cleanly. He can come in and just hit him with, the briefcase from behind or whatnot, or have him attacked. Have Big Show and Kane attack him and then beat him down and then pin. It could be cowardly as it gets, as long as he comes out on top. That way, you did show that you didn't completely piss on Reigns because hey, he single-handedly beat Brock and he won the title fair and square. That way, you also have the fans suddenly root for Reigns because, hey, he accomplished it, but he didn't come out with the title. The worst thing that could happen, and that's what they're fearing, is that Reigns wins clean and he gets booed like Batista did, at the Rumble. That's the fear because the fans have turned on Reigns, and him walking out will be predictable. It will reinforce that. Oh, Daniel Bryan, and then the way to prevent that is Seth might, in a sense, get some cheers. If he will get cheers if he cashes in.
Oh yeah,
He will get cheered because people will be happy that he's the one that came out winning that match. But also, next night, he's going to get booed, because he can cut a promo and just completely, turn on the face, turn on the WWE Universe. And then people will start cheering for Roman as the chaser, because that's what he should be, is a chaser, not a guy that carries it.
I agree, man. That's why when I was thinking of how they're going to do the the running order of the matches, if for some reason they do Seth Rollins and Randy Orton early on the show, then I feel like that's almost a guarantee that he's cashing in.
Yes,
that's how I see it, and I really hope to hear that music and see that curb stomp and the referee holding up Seth Rollins' arm.
What kind of a twist, what kind of a talking point would that be? That would be one of the most talked about. And, remember, last year he got a ton of buzz with Undertaker losing. That was the big talk. People almost forgot about Bryan in a sense, and that was a huge thing too. But there's no buzz-worthy moments so far when we're talking about Mania. I don't see anything. The streak's obviously already over. Nothing can happen there. Everything's semi-predictable. But this is a game changer. This is one thing where, whoa, wow, that is huge. That is a twist to Mania. That is a all-time WrestleMania moment for sure. Where this is remembered for years to come because he cashed in, was the first one to cash in, and how shocking it was. Just as Lesnar winning was shocking. They need those moments, and I think that's in a WrestleMania that's semi-predictable, besides maybe one match, the Wyatt Undertaker. This would be the most talked about moment, and it totally takes off the pressure of Brock. If you lose him, it's okay because now he's not even a focus point, because he already lost to Reigns and Seth Rollins cashed in, so that doesn't even matter anymore. So Brock just can kind of fade away into obscurity if he decides to leave. If not, you can bring him back in a month or couple and start a different feud with a Randy Orton, which is a feud that hasn't happened. A face Randy Orton versus Brock Lesnar would have been a great feud.
That would have been really fun to watch.
So they could save that for SummerSlam. If he does resign and start off a feud and, build Orton in that sense too, as your face, but there's options, and Seth Rollins winning gives you options. And that's the great part about it. I think it will be a hugely missed opportunity if they just walk out with Reigns, and if it backfires, because I'm almost certain, as are you, that he's going to get booed if he hands up that title. People won't forgive that. They'll think it's a cheap ending. It's a predictable way out, and I think it might even be noticeable when they both come out, and the boos.
Especially the next night on Raw, they'll just eat him alive.
They will eat him alive. And you know what the worst way to kill a career is? To do something like that. To get completely forced to change him into a heel. They can force Batista to turn into heel because Batista's been there and done that, and he's a veteran when this happened to him, and you could recover. You had this Evolution storyline you plugged him into. Obviously they wanted Batista as a face, but the fans changed that. You just couldn't bring out a face who got booed. But with Roman Reigns, he's got no other alternatives, This is a guy that's supposed to be around for your future. If he's going to get buried by the fans, there's no recovering for a long time.
I agree.
And you protect Reigns in that way. You can protect him by, hey, he won the title for 2 minutes, He became champion, but he doesn't have to carry the company. And you can have absolutely Seth Rollins carry the company, especially when he's involved in Authority storyline. It's Authority's title then.
He's their golden boy.
Yeah,
and then he can basically, you can say, okay, Roman won at WrestleMania.
Right, and he looks strong. He looks strong because he defeated Lesnar. So he doesn't look weak at all.
Exactly, and then you have, but like you're saying, Rollins carries the workload, and he can talk on the mic, holds the title, and then later on, that one and two feud right there.
And Roman becomes a fan favorite now because he's chasing Rollins. After WrestleMania, it won't matter because the crowd's going to turn back to long-term storylines. He's chasing. You're rooting for him to fight off the Authority, and then he's suddenly a more likable character because, hey, he didn't win. He didn't have it spoon-fed. I think the fans hate the idea of him being spoon-fed, that easily when they know he's not ready. And he becomes that much more likable, and then people can get behind him, as a chaser.
Right. And it showed at the Rumble how pissed the fans were, and even The Rock got upset because the fans booed The Rock.
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine that heat. They tried to cover, and WWE knew it also, which makes me think this whole cash-in is a possibility because they saw what happened at the Rumble. The Rock couldn't even hold off the boos. And this is going to be Roman by himself. And this is him winning the Rumble, not winning a WrestleMania main event title. That's the Super Bowl. That's the end all be all. The guy
can't get any better.
No, you standing with the title at the top of WrestleMania. You are the man. You are the man of the year. And if he got booed at the Rumble for winning a Rumble, imagine what they're gonna do to him when he hoists that title and it just ends a show. It's gonna be chaotic. So it's it's setting up to be an interesting potentially WrestleMania. They have a chance. To make this a huge historic moment that we're not going to forget, by doing this cash-in. They have the chips on the table. The question is, will they use them? Because WWE has always gone the safe route, usually.
Yes, I agree. The ball, they have the ball.
They completely do.
Let's see how they play how they play it.
And exactly, and you know what? And if they mess up and they get booed and their main event turns into crap because of it, it's them to blame because they knew it's going to happen. Don't tell me that they don't know it's going to happen. They were aware of it. They were just too stubborn to put a stop to it and go ahead. So it's going to be on them. Are they going to completely let their ego get the best out of it and let themselves up for criticism and having a main event booed and ruining their guy or not? And it's going to be telling this Sunday. I mean, we're going to see what they go with. I mean, my prediction, I do have a slight chance at feeling that they might do that cash-in, but I think they're going to do the predictable thing and have Roman win.
Have him claim 1, 2, 3, and then there's the end of the show?
Yeah, I think that's ultimately what's going to happen. But I still reserve hope. I still believe there is a chance they could do that twist. That would be the best ending for sure. But I don't see Lesnar winning in any way. Even if he resigns, I just don't think they're not going to take that risk, and they're just not going to do it.
I really hope we see the cash in. I really hope, and they should do the cash in. My prediction, the whole time I was saying Roman's going to win. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he's going to win. The only doubt if Lesnar resigns, then I think part of the deal is I keep the title just because I feel like that's the type of guy Lesnar is.
Yes, and take it at least to Extreme Rules.
Yes,
that makes sense.
So if he resigns, if he retains, that's it. He resigned, and that was part of the deal. But if he doesn't resign, then I see Roman winning.
Yeah, and you know what? It would be a shocker, even if we don't know if he resigns or not. I don't think that's going to come out. But if you see Lesnar win, that's going to be a surprise to many people for sure.
It would, and I wouldn't mind that because I feel like it's been a while since we've seen the Rumble winner lose.
Yes.
So I wouldn't mind seeing Lesnar win.
Yeah, neither would I. It would definitely add an element of surprise for sure. But they have options. Would
you mind this? Let's say Lesnar wins at Mania, and then the following night on Raw, Seth cashes in.
That's very possible. A lot of cash-ins, Ziggler cashed in on Raw following Mania. I think it would be a huge moment. It's for me, it's too big of a moment to leave it up to Raw, because then it would make WrestleMania look secondary. Oh my God, like the biggest turn and twist happened. Rollins cashing in is a big deal. That's a WrestleMania moment that's saved for a Raw. I don't agree with that. It just that Raw is not that. It's a good Raw always. It's one of the best Raws of the year, but it's not big enough to have such a big cash in. It's not like Ziggler's cashing in on Del Rio. That's what happened before to win a title. This is cashing in on Brock freaking Lesnar. The guy that's been dominating. For the past year.
Or like Swagger when he cashed in on SmackDown on Jericho.
Right. It's just different. It's the quality of people, and we knew that Ziggler, when he cashed in on Del Rio, those are two SmackDown guys, two secondary kind of guys, but these are like two head guys. Lesnar's been a franchise basically for them, the way they build him up.
Yeah.
And Rollins is the potential present and definitely the future, so save that for Mania because that's a WrestleMania moment.
True. Yeah, true. Good point. Very good point.
So either way, it's going to be a great WrestleMania, I think. I'm excited that it's outside, actually. I like the outside WrestleManias.
Yeah, they're fun. They did, I was worried when they did the New Jersey one.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, it's going to be cold. But then I found out they had heaters under the ring and stuff. And I was like, oh, that is pretty cool.
They were set up for it well. I mean, they had everything tarped off, from the top. The ring was well set up. I mean, the thing is, it wasn't even cold. That's the one thing they couldn't stop. It was like in the high 40s or low 50s, which was ideal, really. So they lucked out there, but I don't think they have any issues in San Francisco for sure, with the weather. They're going to be good. So I'm excited to actually, I do like the outdoor WrestleManias. I think it gives a little bit of extra excitement to it, than it's indoors, because indoors, it does trap the sound. But it's got that darker look. When it's outside, it just looks limitless,
Yeah.
And everything just looks bigger too.
Especially in the football stadium.
Yes, because it looks like a huge football game. It looks like a Super Bowl type event,
Yep.
And in a stadium, you can't tell if it's 20,000 or 70,000. It just seats on top of seats. But outside, you can see the limit. You can see the top rafters. So I like that setup. It's gonna be an international crowd for sure, as always. So I'm looking forward to it. I have high actually hopes for this Mania. And unless they really screw it up, I think it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, I agree. I saw an article online where somebody was complaining about WrestleMania this year and comparing it to WrestleMania 17, X7. And I was like, the times are a lot different. You can't really compare that era to this era. Mm-hmm. Completely different wrestlers and everything.
Oh yeah. You had established guys at 17, at their prime.
Right. So I was like, you know what? I was looking over the card for this year, and I was like, I don't have complaints. This WrestleMania has potential.
It does. And sometimes you look at the card. The worst thing was that we talked about a couple years ago where you had a bunch of rematches. Triple H Taker again. Cena versus Rock again. Half of the card was a bunch of rematches. That's disappointing, because you just see, like, we've seen that last year's WrestleMania, The one in New York had a bunch of... I believe that one was the one with a bunch of rematches. It's just not good to have all these rematches because it just doesn't. It's not exciting, And we're going to get to see Sting versus Triple H, Bray versus Undertaker, Brock versus Roman, all first-time matches, which is good.
And that's the thing about WrestleMania. You're supposed to see dream matches and once-in-a-lifetime type of matches.
Exactly. Not twice in a lifetime or repeats.
Yes.
So that's it. And, I wanted, before we wrap it up here, you touched on a point earlier on saying that this is a WrestleMania that you see that it's the young guys, like the 20, where the young guys emerge. And this is that. When you look at Bray could be a huge breakout, Rusev could be made to look good. I don't think he will, and strong, but he's a guy that's, a younger guy too. You obviously have Roman and Seth, I mean, if Seth comes out with that title, what a way to build your future there,
Yeah. And don't forget, we can also have the ladder match with Ambrose. You never know.
That could be Ambrose. Yeah, exactly. Another guy that could definitely establish himself. And, I think a title on Ambrose means something too. If he comes out a winner from all those guys, I think this is a WrestleMania where the new stars of the future will be built here, and definitely I could see Wyatt coming out really strong, being the new Undertaker, Reigns kind of turning into the new Lesnar going down, a big guy that's as a babyface though. And Rollins just being the next, Orton in a sense,
Yeah.
It's crazy how they can do that, and they can all accomplish that. They literally, the WWE has the cards in their hand to accomplish that, and this is the time to do it. If they're going to do it.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Awesome. Well, Ricky, thanks for joining the podcast. It was awesome. We got to preview WrestleMania. It's going to be a huge show.
It was awesome.
Oh, yeah. We got to do a review of post WrestleMania. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of all our predictions are going to, either happen or not. So we're going to have to do that and talk about, because it's going to be one crazy week ahead of us. Through next Monday, it's going to be insane. It's the best time of the year in wrestling to be a wrestling fan. It's the craziest time of the year, and the most happens. So there's a lot to talk about, and we're at the forefront of it.
Yo, yeah, cannot wait. Like you said, most exciting. If you're a wrestling fan, this is our Super Bowl.
This is our Super Bowl, no question. This is what we wait for all year long. And quickly, Hall of Fame. Any thoughts? Kevin Nash got inducted tonight, deservingly so, I think. Yeah. What do you think of the class? It's going to be on Saturday night, the Hall of Fame.
Macho Man, overdue.
Yes, overdue. Way
Macho
overdue.
Man, way overdue. I didn't really when I was a kid growing up, I didn't expect Rikishi to be a Hall of Famer.
Neither did I. I found that one to be strange.
Yes.
He was good, but he was just a mid-carder at best, and I know some guys that mid-card status have made it for sure, but they've been significant guys. Like, for me, a Honky Tonk Man is a mid-carder, but he's a memorable mid-carder,
Yes.
He transcends, like, different eras, but Rikishi doesn't. He's very forgettable. Unless you kind of were in the Attitude Era, that's all you remember him for. You don't remember him going forward, as like an iconic character. He wasn't.
Like when they try to make him a heel and push him in the back in the day for the title.
Oh yeah, it didn't work.
It didn't work, so that's why Rikishi. I'm a fan of him, but I scratched my head.
Yeah, and not a Hall of Fame worthy. I don't see that.
Yeah, I don't. He wouldn't get my vote.
No, I was surprised by that for sure.
We got Macho Man who's in it, and
then Kevin Nash. We have the Bushwhackers.
Yeah,
they're cool. I mean, I think they're one of the iconic tag teams of the '90s. That people still remember. They were unique. They're the type of guys that do deserve a Hall of Fame. They weren't top of the status, but they were right there in the thick of the tag team division. They were always the top guys in the late '80s, early '90s. Great characters too.
Oh, entertaining as hell.
Yeah, I think they would deserve it. You also have Alundra Blaze, who was like the first woman's champion, really, and she wasn't that distinctive, but she did make a mark on the women's division. She was one of the originals.
Right. She was Medusa in WCW, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's how I saw it. The same thing. I was like, she wasn't like, she may not have been the biggest name, but she definitely did a mark in the women's division, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's something like that, they deserve it.
Yeah, and she was the first one to, she had that iconic thing where she switched over to WCW and she trashed the title.
Yeah.
So that was a big moment in a sense. And the other names, I mean, they're falling off top of my Fujiyama or Fujikama, I think the Japanese wrestler.
Yeah, the Japanese guy they just added this weekend or last week.
Yeah, you have that. This isn't the strongest Hall of Fame class for sure. I think it's one of the weaker ones in the past few years. Besides Kevin Nash and Macho Man, those are two. I mean, you have Arnold as the celebrity. I think that's cool.
Oh, yeah.
But, as far as WWE names, I'm kind of disappointed. Macho Man's a big one, for sure, and Kevin Nash is a big one, but rest of the field is pretty weak or unnoticeable, really.
Yeah, so I agree. And then they add that one guy who was an NWA guy from California.
Yeah, they did.
So yeah, it's not the strongest.
No, it's a weak class, I actually think. As compared to the last few years where you had some big time people, you had that one with Booker, Trish, and just like a bunch of like, they were like the fourth and fifth, in the same Hall of Fame, not even
Yeah,
headlining. And those were just a few years ago. You had Lita and all these like recognizable names the past few years, but this one is kind of disappointing.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's besides Macho and Big Daddy Cool,
Like last year
good.
was solid. I think you had Razor Ramon, you had, Paul Bear, you had Ultimate Warrior. That was a strong class last year.
Yes, last year was
And
really strong.
Lita was there also last year. That last year was a good class. I think this year's far less, and
I think next year we can see a stronger class. I know they said
The Rock potentially.
The Rock was rumored, and
Maybe Undertaker and Sting if they have a retirement. Imagine that.
that's what I heard too. I was gonna say because Sting's from Texas, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
originally,
Yes, and so is Taker. How
and so
about
is
them
Taker.
two? Them
So
two
that
might
would
be
be.
headliners. That would be great.
Oh, imagine those three in the same
Oh,
class.
I think it'd be too much. I don't think they do it. I think they do two of them. I think they do Sting Taker, but I don't think they do Rock because Rock would have to be like the top guy, and so would Undertaker. Whoever
Right.
those two are top guys, that lead a Hall of Fame. Sting could be a number two, a great number two.
But the
Um,
question is, does Taker? He doesn't break character.
that's true too. What do you do?
So what do you do for the Hall of Fame speech?
Unless you do, yeah. I mean, unless he loses this year and he kind of comes in a different form next year.
He comes back as the American
But
Badass.
Dad, you couldn't have Sting versus Dad. You need the original Taker. Yeah, it would be interesting to see. But this year's class, I mean, Macho Man longly deserved.
Yes.
I just kind of find it weird that Hogan's inducting him, and he did not like Hogan personally.
Yeah, Piper came out commenting about that too, and Bret Hart, and a lot of people are just they don't. I don't. That has to be Vince's move.
It has to be, and you know what? And his family was begging to be like there, and his brother Lenny to induct, and I don't think he's even going to be there.
Yeah, it's a lot of people aren't happy about that, but at least he's finally going in.
Yes, and that's all that matters. I mean, it's long overdue, and it's justified, and glad he is. So
And in your question, what do you think about international superstars going into the WWE Hall of Fame?
yeah, I mean, you mean the some of the ones that like the Japanese guy that we're talking about that we don't know
The
about.
Japanese guy I know a few years ago they added the guy from Mexico,
Yeah,
Mascaras.
Mil, yep, Del Rio's uncle. Yeah, I guess that's a cool thing. It makes it at least legitimate to a point where they're just not a WWE Hall of Fame. They're kind of like they're including the wrestling world. So I think it's needed. It's sort of like the celebrity person. It's like that one special category. I don't think you need more. You just need one. I think if you do more than one, it's you're throwing too many unknowns. I think one of those, like the international ones, one celebrity, and then you always have one sort of manager or announcer, every year, that type of role, and then you just have the wrestlers, the known ones. So I think, but I think you know what? The more we're coming down now to these Hall of Fames, I think it's going to be more of our generation and people. Everyone pretty much is in from the '90s, the '80s and early '90s. They're already in the Hall of Fame. I think now you're going to start getting the Attitude people, Attitude Era people, and the Monday Night Wars type of people coming into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, don't forget the ruthless aggression era too.
Yes, and some of those guys too. So I mean, like Rock is probably coming up soon too. He's not going to wrestle. You're going to have Undertaker. Some of these iconic names are going to be due up soon. So I can definitely see that.
Can you imagine a Paul Heyman speech at the Hall of Fame?
Oh boy, that would be classic.
Oh man.
I mean, does Lesnar get in the Hall of Fame maybe in a few years if he leaves the WWE? Could.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
Oh, he's deserving of it, but I don't know if he's too young or in a sense, too early to put him in. But they do have options with that, and I think the next couple years are going to be some strong names. Definitely The Rock and Sting and Taker are going in next year or two.
Oh there's so many names. I know, in my opinion, Jericho's a Hall of Famer
for sure. He's still too much of an active roster guy.
Right. You got Triple H in the future.
Yes. And you know what? I think the NWO that's what I was going to mention too. Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash, they wanted to really announce him as Diesel because they did the same thing for Razor Ramon instead of Scott Hall.
Yeah.
But I guess Nash kind of forced his way to be called Kevin Nash, so that threw it off. I think they were planning to do Diesel and then do a since they did Razor Ramon, then they were going to do an NWO, or an Outsiders, Hall and Nash. Yeah. I think that was the big plan to put into NWO in the Hall of Fame, which they could because they did the Four Horsemen. It would have been a great category. They all went in individually, obviously. You have Nash, Hall, and Hogan, obviously, but to add him as the NWO and that kind of group, that would have been neat.
I agree. I think NWO and D-Generation X are
locks, and they should get in.
They're Hall of Fame groups.
Yes, and I think they will. And even though they announced him as Nash, I think he's going in again as part of the NWO.
And they need a physical building for that Hall of Fame.
They do, and I think Triple H is already working on it. It's going to be in Florida, I'm guessing, somewhere near the Performance Center. It's got to be. You're just coming up with too many names and too many things. You need to expand, Yeah. I mean, you can't just have a Hall of Fame with no physical place,
Right.
Just by name or by event. You need to have some meaning to it if you're really doing that. And they've been doing it for a long time.
And if you don't mind me adding, the one tag team I will go insane. I can't wait. I think there's a lot of tag teams from the Attitude Era that deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
But the one team I'm looking forward to the most are the Dudleys.
I was just going to say that. The Dudleys have to get in. The Dudleys and Hardys are for sure Hall of Famers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Edge and Christian, I mean, Christian, I think, is going to go in. If Rikishi can get into the Hall of Fame, Christian definitely deserves to get in, by himself. No doubt about it. He was a former world champion and a huge part of the WWE. But yeah, as tag team wise, Dudley's absolutely a must. Same thing with the Hardys. I think they're on the same level. I think they're working for TNA, so I wouldn't see that anytime soon.
Right.
I think Dudley's actually could be a next year type of thing. Since Bubba appeared at the Rumble and they're not affiliated with TNA, that could happen next year.
I can see it. And I would love to see them in the Hall of Fame.
And here's one name for a guy that might make his return and deserves for sure to be in a Hall of Fame. Kurt Angle.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
It all depends how he leaves TNA and if he's going to have one more match in WWE. I could still see it, but I don't know. Time's running out for him for his in-ring career.
Yeah, because when he was a free agent not too long ago, I thought he was going to come back.
So did I.
But I guess what I read was WWE offered him a full-time, and TNA offered him part-time. So I guess he wants to try acting.
Yes, and his body just can't take it.
Yeah, no, his body cannot take full-time. So I don't know if WWE did that because they were like, we want you full-time, or they did that almost in a way of saying, at least we can say we offered him a contract, and we know he's going to decline it.
Yeah, I think it's like a half-ass move, knowing that he would decline it because he would not work a full-time schedule, but they're like, hey, at least we showed an offer, that type of thing, not completely ignored him. It also opens up bridges for them in the future, be like, hey, we did reach out to you, we value you or whatever.
Right. And his contract, I heard, expired, or I read, I think, just after Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's just around the Royal Rumble. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see him in TNA. I think the TNA contracts are kind of loose, like Sting. He left right away, when it was getting close to it. So you can get out of those deals.
Plus, he deserves to end his career in WWE.
Absolutely. It's the best thing, and that's what makes this WrestleMania special, too, is like, this is a guy people have been always wondering, is he ever going to step foot and have a match, and this Sunday is going to be we're going to see history, first time Sting, the only Lone Ranger that's never stepped foot in WWE, he's going to finally have his match, and it's going to come full circle, and that's what's going to definitely separate this Mania and the excitement to it, why we're so pumped is, wow, a guy that's been a legend that we've never thought actually we would see him at this point is actually going to wrestle his first match.
Yeah, one of the biggest names in the history of professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And for so many years, he said
he wouldn't
never sign with WWE.
And most people believe that. I believed he wouldn't sign with him. Like I didn't think it would. There came a point where he's been with TNA for so many years, like no chance, And wow, when it happened, it was just like a stunner, in a sense that you never thought this moment would happen, and finally he's been in a WWE ring, and now he's going to have his match, which is going to be official, that marking point.
Right. Yeah. Because every year the rumors he's signed or he's gonna sign, and I got to the point where unless I see him on WWE TV, I don't believe it.
Exactly, and we will believe it this Sunday.
Yes.
So it's going to be awesome. So yeah, glad that you joined. Thanks everyone, whoever's downloading and listening on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, wherever you might be listening to us and downloading. Thanks for that. We will be back. This is just the beginning of what we're starting here with the Wrestling Authority. And be sure to have Ricky on as much as possible, right?
Yeah, buddy.
That's right. We have a lot of wrestling talk, and this is the best time of year, and we will be back next week with a post-WrestleMania review. Either we'll be doing this on Sunday night or Monday after Raw. Or both. And everyone, enjoy WrestleMania this Sunday. It's going to be epic in one way. My final prediction, Seth Rollins cashing it in, changing everything.
Oh, man, fingers crossed. I hope that is true.
We'll see. So, everyone, see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Take it easy.